I've struggled with the theme on this recap. On one hand, it feels like the market could crash, but on the other, it could keep rising. Now, I can't say for sure what will happen, but I did make some guesses early on this year where we're headed, and now that Q3 is in the books, it's time to find out if those guesses are still on track or not. But first, let's take a glimpse of the magical transformation that's occurring right now around Pagosa Springs. So the name of the game is supply and demand. But to me, supply matters more than demand because no matter what the current economic conditions are, people will always need a place to live or a place to move to.
I don't give a rat's behind because I'm moving in. I'm sick and tired of living in a van down by the river.
So I like to pay careful attention to the amount of new listings coming onto the market. And at the beginning of 2023, new listings were significantly down compared to not only COVID years, but also the pre-COVID years. It was so shocking that I mentioned I didn't think we'd surpass 600 listings for the year, which is something we've always done. Now, we've always crossed over 600 new listings for a calendar year, but this year, that's in jeopardy. And that's what's so concerning here. I don't think a U-Haul winter will have that much of an impact. I'd be hard pressed to see a flood of listings in the summer beyond what's normal. For Q3, new listings were still down about 8% from the prior 3 years. To date, we're at 496 new listings, 23% below our usual pre-COVID pace. Now, we're usually already over 600 new listings at this point of the year, but since Q4 historically averages about 100 new listings a quarter, I don't think there's much of a chance we'll cross that 600 new listing barrier this year. And this is the exact reason why the market has not crashed. 75% of America is locked into interest rates lower than 5%. So they're hesitant to put their home on the market and move into something new. In fact, the amount of time a homeowner stays put in their home is now increasing compared to prior years. But what about demand? Could that demand be even worse than our current supply situation? Well, the number of sold listings was down 18% for Q3 compared to the COVID averages, but it's actually up 3% when compared to the 5-year period before COVID. So it was actually a good quarter for sales when compared to a normal pre-COVID market. And this is the reason why our real estate market hasn't crashed, because demand is holding up much better than supply is. Now, last spring, I was of the opinion that this year is shaping up to be just like last year. The market rises in the spring, peaks in early summer, cools off in the fall, only to rise again after Thanksgiving. But take a look at this chart. This chart shows the price per square foot growth from the beginning of each year. If we take out the crazy COVID years, you'll see we're right in line with the 3 years prior to COVID. So instead of this year starting to look like last year, it's starting to look like a pre-COVID market. So I'm shifting my expectations of price declines this fall to the market remaining relatively flat with some small price fluctuations. Now, there still is quite a bit of inventory just sitting there, and some of it is overpriced, but sellers are still receiving a higher percentage of their asking price than they were a year ago. More importantly, if you look at historical trends, we typically start to see cancellations this time of year, especially during the COVID years. Sellers are sitting on record amounts of home equity, so it's no risk to them to price their property high, and if they can't get it, they can always cancel. And I expect this trend to continue, which will help keep our prices stable. So overall, I'm slightly positive on market conditions right now. It actually kind of surpassed my expectations. But the last thing I want to be is that realtor that tells you now is a great time to buy no matter what the conditions are. And at Team N Squared, we're always going to be honest with you. We don't hand out unrealistic valuations just to get your listing, and we won't force you into a home that's overpriced just to get a commission check. We've told certain clients to take their homes off the market till valuations start rising again because that's in their best interest. Our focus is on you, not on us. So I like to pay careful attention to contrarian viewpoints. I want to be challenged in hopes to reveal any weak spots in my thought process so I can better inform you. But one of those contrarian viewpoints is that the Airbnb bust will cause a market collapse, flooding the market with new listings. And since we live in a tourist town, short-term rentals matter. So let's take a look at the data because we now have a perfect example to pay attention to. New York City proposed a law in November 2022 that essentially bans all STRs unless the host lives in the home and is there during the duration of the visit. This law was supposed to go in effect in March 2023, but due to lawsuits, it wasn't enforced until September 5th. So STR owners there have now had about a year to prepare for this. Now, I think most of us would imagine that many of these owners would put their house or condo up for sale, given that their income stream was essentially taken away from them. But take a look at this chart. I grabbed the annual change in the amount of new listings and compared New York City to the rest of America's metro areas. And as you can see, New York City actually had a decent amount of growth at the beginning of 2022, outpacing the other metro areas. But by the time they announced the new STR law, new listings plunged to the metro average. In March 2023, New York City followed the exact same path as the rest of America. And once the law actually went into effect last month, New York City dipped slightly below the metro average. So far, there's hardly been any impact to the housing market because of this law. Now, it's still early and it could change, but when you really think about it, these numbers actually make sense because the number of active STR units compared to overall housing units is too low to actually make a large impact. But what about Pagosa? After all, we are a tourism town that in large part depends on a healthy STR industry for our local economy. According to AirDNA, there's a little over 1,000 available STRs here in Pagosa Springs that are currently available to rent. There's actually more STRs than that, but they aren't taking active reservations. They block out their calendar, only rent to family and friends, etc. But out of those 1,000 active rentals or so, only 34% are considered full-time STRs, meaning they're available to rent for more than 270 days a year. Most STRs here are basically future retirement homes or long-time family vacation homes meant to be passed down from generation to generation. But out of those full-time rentals, they make up only about 2.6% of our total housing units here in Archuleta County. Again, too small to make a meaningful impact to our market. And here's the thing anyways, attitudes on STRs are starting to change among local governments who imposed caps and restrictions during the pandemic. Check out what's happening in Telluride and their quest to provide affordable housing. Local Councilwoman Adrienne Christie, who supported the original cap on STRs in 2021, recently said in an emotional and tearful exchange that the only way we are going to solve this problem is to build affordable housing, and in order to do that, we need to make money. I don't feel I need to soapbox anymore. I am not in favor of a cap. I am ready to make some money, more money, and put it into our affordable housing fund from licenses and fees. And you know what? She's exactly right. As proven so far by New York City, banning STRs will not cause a flood of new listings to come on the market and cause valuations to crash in hopes of making housing affordable again. That never really made sense. And with sale tax receipts starting to take a dip, I think you'll see more cities and counties reverse their course and embrace the STR model rather than try to depress their income sources. Think about it. Here in Pagosa Springs, the average STR is only occupied for about half the year, but the average spend in our local economy from the average STR is nearly double that of the median full-time household here. And that's not including the payments to STR owners. That's purely what's spent towards our local businesses. Where else can you find that kind of a deal? Half the impact on infrastructure, yet twice the impact on our local businesses. All right, time to bring this to an end. There's certainly some concerns from the contrarians that give me pause. Home affordability is incredibly low right now. Credit card debt is at a record high. Property taxes are putting a strain on homeowners, especially in places like Texas. But so far, the market has remained strong despite all these indicators. And unless there's a big event or recession that causes homeowners to give up their cheap mortgage rates, I just don't see the market significantly crashing. Sure, it's going to fluctuate a bit, but who really knows? These are truly unprecedented times, and anything can happen. If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. I always value a well-reasoned viewpoint. And with that said, it's time to get out of this office and get outside and enjoy the beautiful autumn weather in our amazing mountains here in Pagosa Springs. Cheers.